In this week's lesson, I'd like to talk to you some more about the British culture. And we're going to use some very famous, well-known posters from wartime Britain to help us learn a few things. Now, the first poster I'm going to show you is very famous. It's become very popular recently for merchandising and also as jokes on the internet. So let's have a look at the first poster. Being calm, thinking about things, not being at all impulsive has always been seen as a virtue in the British culture. That's why many people think that we are cold, that we're not passionate at all, because we think that using your head and reacting in a calm and collected way is something good and something that we should all try to develop. And this comes from having lived through 2 world wars. The next 2 posters that we're going to look at will help you to understand patriotism, British patriotism, why we are so proud to be British. Okay, so let's look at the first poster. The idea that Britain had won the First World War was obviously very important for British morale during the Second World War. So the idea of having won and not having lost has become very important in British culture. We're very proud of the fact that we were on the winning side of 2 world wars. The poster you've just seen is very important because if you look at the 2 soldiers on the back left corner, you'll see that they are from 2 different races. Now, these 2 soldiers represent British colonies in India and in Africa. And the idea was to encourage these colonies to feel that they were part of the British Empire and part of the fight for freedom for all people. So this poster shows an interesting idea of inclusion, more or less, because they were our colonies and we had actually invaded them in the past. But the idea was to include all the British citizens in the good fight. The next posters that we're going to look at are very important because they show us and they give us the reason why British women became so empowered so quickly as a result of World War II. British culture was shaped and changed very much by the role of women during the war. So let's look at the posters. So the slogan, "We can do it," refers to the fact that women had to take on what were traditionally male jobs during the war. Women in the cities were sent into the factories, into industrial jobs, to create the weapons, the armaments, the munitions that were necessary for the war effort. Women in the country were also given a very important role during the war. The men were off fighting, so they were responsible for cultivating and providing the food sources for British society. And they became very important. Instead of being inside the house looking after the children and the home, they were now responsible for all kinds of agricultural work. The word evacuees in this poster is very important. Young children and women with babies were evacuated from the cities because the cities were the focal point for the air raids, for the bombing raids that the Germans did on the British Isles. And so the idea that you could be a good patriot and you could help fight the enemy by receiving evacuees in your home was also very important. Women were referred to as the second army. Their jobs were just as important as the soldiers for the war effort. And this made women feel very empowered, very free, and it made them understand that they were just as important in society as the men. Okay, so I want to show you these last two posters to explain a trait of British culture, of the way we are, who we are, and it's a characteristic that is often criticized by many people. We're reserved, we're private, we don't show our emotions very easily. It's true, British people are generally much more private and reserved than other nations. So let's have a look at the first poster. The fact that Britain was involved in 2 long and very costly world wars explains the fact that British society is accustomed to following rules. As you saw in this poster, we feel more comfortable if we are prepared, if there is a system in place, if there are rules to follow. That gives us a sense of security and of being prepared for the worst. So I think that part of the reason for the way British people are, the fact that we respect authority and we follow rules, and in general we apply and follow the laws of our country. I think that one of the big reasons is because we lived through 2 very, very difficult world wars. In this poster you saw the word mum. Now this was a code word. During the wars people used to say mum's the word, and they were saying don't say any more, there could be spies listening, we need to be careful. So this word mum has nothing to do with being a mother. It was a code word for be quiet. Keep it under your hat is a British idiom for keep the secret, keep quiet. So, as you can see, we learned a lot about British culture today, looking at how the 2 world wars have influenced British society and the way we think and the way we react in certain situations. I hope that was interesting for you. For more exercises and more videos, visit www.ingleshechofacil.consulta. See you next time.